Joe, the participants list at the top will give you all the names. It won't give them their jobs, but it does give you their names.
Yeah, it'd be good just, hi Kate, how are you? Just thought it'd be good just to see who everybody is and just where they're located if possible, but that's okay too. Are you better, Kate? You better?
Yes. Yeah, still, you know, always just hangs on some of these things at the moment, but otherwise, no, fine. Thank you.
I think you gave it to me. I've been suffering from it. So I keep telling people, don't be fooled that you have to actually be coughed on by the person next to you. It can come down that technology line for sure.
Absolutely. Viruses are well known to do that.
That's right too. I'll just give everyone, we'll just wait another minute if that's okay, just to make sure that we've got everyone. Thanks everyone for signing in. If you've just come in a little bit late, if you don't mind just signing in and just letting us know just what your position is. I love all the acronyms. It's so very interesting, isn't it, from the DIB team? It's lots of different acronyms and lots of people coming on. Okay, and just to let everyone know too, we're just making a recording of this. So if you've got any objections, it's probably just right now to sort of say that, but I think we'll be all right. We just thought it'd be good for you to have a recording of the session, just so that then you can actually, refer back to it if you need to. Okay, I'll just start my video. Make sure that that's okay. Okay, all right. So I probably would just like to start. It's 9:33. We've given everybody a couple of minutes, so we don't have a great deal of time. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Joanne Fuller. Most people call me Jo Fuller. I'm the Senior Manager for Product Development Support. My role is, I'm responsible for the quality assurance and consistency around product development, and also about the product implementation. So I'm actually located at Bankstown, although today I'm actually at Ultimo, and I have a team of staff that are across the countryside, and I've got a couple of people here today with me, which I'll get them to introduce themselves in a moment. What I would like to do is just thank you for the opportunity to talk through the assessment templates and to have a look at where that come from and where we are going as far as the implementation. So part of the role, we're part of training operations in education training group, and we support very closely and work closely with the skills points. So I'd like to just start off with it. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past, present, and any future country and First Nation people in the meeting today. And also acknowledge that people are on Aboriginal land right across the North region. So again, thank you for coming here today. I'd just like to introduce a couple of people, is Dave Gilchrist and Lucia Rulo. They're two of the assessment designers within the product development support team, and I've also got another assessment designer, Alison Warren, who was unable to be here today. I've also got Tracy Collins, who's the manager of the Learning Bank. She's actually going to do part of the session here today. Tracy, you're there, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Jo. Hi, everybody.
And I've also got Robin Hughes, which is our support person, who will probably take some notes because I'm sure that you've got lots of questions to ask around this. So what we'll do is we're just going to take you through a PowerPoint. We've got certain components that we'll all be discussing, but we'll also be able to give you an opportunity to ask questions during the presentation. We'll stop at certain times just to give you an opportunity to ask questions, and we're also hoping to give you a bit of time at the end of the whole presentation to actually ask questions as well. So Dave, I might just get you to bring up the PowerPoint if that's okay. And we'll certainly share this PowerPoint too. You are the first region to actually have this session, so we're sort of thinking at this point that we might make some updates to this, just so that you've got the most current. And we're conducting the information sessions over the next 2 weeks. So we're thinking that once we sort of work with it and update it based on questions that were asked, we're very happy to share that with everybody. So you can see from that slide, this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to have a little bit of the background. We're going to look at the timelines. Those of you would be very familiar with the current version 2 assessment templates. They're the ones that are currently on the Standards and Compliance intranet site. And what we're talking today about the version 3 assessment templates. We're going to talk about where they'll be located, where can you find actually completed assessments that the skills points will actually be deploying. Those people that are excellence and standards people will understand the importance about the file naming protocols and acronyms, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll just sort of finish off with talking about the transition period and continuous improvement. And again, as I said, there's lots of opportunity to actually ask questions as we go through it. So I'll just get started because I've got the responsibility of the background information. So basically, this product development support was, we've been standing up since April, as I think the delivery, implementation and performance teams are as well. And what came across to us, particularly from the skills points and just, I suppose, information and feedback that we got, that the current templates could really, what can I say? There could be some value add that we can do for looking at the assessment updates. We thought it was a real opportunity to identify strategies on how we could streamline them. What we found was that there was a variety of templates that we thought that we could be able to combine. We might be able to look at putting some macros within them so people weren't actually copying and pasting a lot of information. We thought that was a real opportunity to actually look at, particularly for Project 83 courses, the opportunity to really look at some high quality assessment templates. We implemented a systematic approach. We reached out to the delivery, implementation and performance teams, and some of you may have been involved in that consultation piece that we did, but we certainly involved the DIP teams, which we also know that we had some contacts from some of the skills teams who were interested in providing feedback. We involved TAFE Digital because they are not only a development arm, they're also a delivery arm, and obviously the skills points. But I think what was really important here too, we were really focused on ensuring that the assessments went through an accessibility assessment as well. So TAFE Digital were able to provide that for us. What we were looking at is that we're making all of the Project 83 assessments, which is one of the deliverables for all of those courses, to be available in the new assessment templates. And then what we're doing today is we're obviously looking at our communication strategy, and we're providing information sessions for all of the DIP teams over the next 2 weeks. So as I said, information sessions are commencing with you being our first one off the rank. We're looking to have the version 3 assessment templates available from the 17th of September. As we go through this presentation, you'll realise that we're not just talking about static templates, so there is a little bit of work that still needs to be done, but we're working to have them up and available and in place before the version 2 are actually removed from the intranet. As you can see, currently that's the 24th of September. What we want to make very clear is that the templates will be available for use for semester 1 non-Project 83 courses, because as you can quite imagine, there's still quite a lot of courses that are not actually involved in Project 83. So those templates are available for use. And then what we're saying here is that November, the Project 83 courses assessments will be available for use in semester 1. But I suppose the final thing is that we're saying that from July 2019, version 3 assessment templates will be used for all courses. That's both any development cycles that are carried out, but also any that are not within the production cycles. So that's what we're looking at for the timelines. Thanks, Dave. And what we might just do... Oh, sorry.
Here, I beg your pardon for jumping in. Just
No, sorry, can we just go... Sorry, Kate, can we go back to that slide? I thought there was another slide, but that's fine. That's the end of my presentation, so please ask a question.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask about the November Project 83 course assessments become available for use for semester 1.
Yes.
So are we saying they have to be used for semester 1, given that people are doing their TASs and doing their stuff for semester 1 now?
No.
Or are we saying they can use them for semester 1, but they have to be using them for semester 2?
That's right. So, we were very careful in our wording there, Kate. They're available for use, but we're not saying that they have to be used. I mean, obviously, the expectation would be that we would be thinking that they've gone through the consultation round, the skills teams would be across those, and we're very much aware that the planning processes are in place. So we're considering semester 1 as a transition. So if people choose to use them, they can. They're actually available and ready to be used. But we're saying that that from July 2019, they must be used.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions? Because that is actually my part finished. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just hand over to Lucia. Thanks, Lucia.
Thanks, Jo. Morning, everyone. So, Karen, you've probably already been using the version 2 template, so you're fairly familiar with them. But I thought I'd just run through and the assessment templates and just have a look at what's in the version 2. So on the right-hand side, you see then the list of the templates that are there. They are not all of them, but they're the ones that we then worked on to improve. So there is a student assessment. There's also an individual student documents, a student declaration, a submission cover sheet, and a student unit result summary, and also the marking templates that in version 2 are used to mark student assessments and provide feedback to the students. So having a look at what was there, what we did to move them forward and improve on them, Dave, the next slide please, was the version 3 templates which came from that. So you see there on the right hand side the list of templates that we that are in the version 3 suite of templates, and with each one of those there is a support document. So if we have a look at their student assessments, same as it was before, so there's a knowledge assessment, there is a project assessment, and a skills assessment. And what we've done is we've incorporated and added a case study assessment, which we felt was needed, and so we've included that. We've also incorporated into the student assessment the student declaration form, which sits at the front of the assessment, and the feedback form. So where originally it was 3 documents, it's now been incorporated into the one. The marking guides, we've evolved those and we've changed them to become trainer and assessor marking guides, which should be used as a duplicate of the original student assessment, but to have included in their sample answers, model answers and responses. So that has now become the trainer-facing document. And the support document for each of those assessment pieces has been developed with a set of instructions, hints and tips, and information to assist in completing your student assessment. So in there, the idea is to use the support document with each of the assessments that are being put together to provide guidance. So with the assessment templates, the version 3, they were released on the 27th of August, but as Jo said, you will receive them in the regions in September. They come in 2 types. So they will sit in the learning bank, as Word documents, and they will also be in data docs in the data website. So with the assessment templates, on the left-hand side, the blue, that's the Learning Bank, and on the right is the green, which is the data. So what we're saying is with the Learning Bank and the data is better to use Google Chrome or Safari, because we find that that's there are less errors and the better of the two options to use. There are links provided at the bottom, and as Joe says, once we finish with all this, we will share the PowerPoint with everybody. I think, Dave, you're up now.
Oh, Lucia, can people ask questions? Maybe, Dave, if we can just go back and have a look at the templates and just see if people have any questions.
Sure.
That's okay.
Were there any questions?
Lucia, Phil Chambers here. I'm just wondering, with the Word documents in difference to the data docs, my understanding is the data docs, you pre-populate those and they pump out a Word document anyway. The Word docs are just totally blank, are they?
That's correct. So the Word documents are, yeah, that's
Thanks.
exactly right. Was there any
Lucia, it's Kate Jones here. Just wondering, did I hear you? And I'm sorry if I about, was there case studies, like examples of filled-in documents or something that go along with these, or is that part of the?
Yes, so with the templates in the version 3, as I mentioned, we do have the support document which assists.
Thank you. That's where it was. Yeah.
But also what we, and thank you for reminding me, what we actually did in the assessment templates, that we added some suggested methods of assessment. So in each of the templates, for example, the knowledge, the skill, the project, and the case study, we added 2 or 3 methods of assessments that can be used to create your assessment. And that was based on, I suppose, what would make sense in those templates, and just to provide further guidance. So they're not exactly blank. There's a lot of information within and a lot of suggestions to guide the process in developing your assessments. Were there any other questions? Okay.
Sorry, yeah, I was just wondering, so you're saying there's 4 different assessment types now: knowledge, skill, project-based, and case study?
That's correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, let's move it along then.
Okay, thank you, Lucia, and good morning, everybody. I just thought I'd just go into having a look at the 2 types of assessment templates, and as Lucia mentioned, that there's basically Word documents that are blank, that don't have any TGA data within them, and then there's the data docs that pre-populate the Word document with the TGA data, in the context of that particular assessment document type. Tracy will talk to the Learning Bank, so I'll just briefly go into the Learning Bank just to show where you can find the assessment template, but Tracy will be able to provide more information if needed. When you first come into the Learning Bank, you guys will no doubt be familiar with the opening page that has all the skills points collections. If you scroll down just a little tiny bit past there, you'll see a link to search for skill points approved training products. When you click on that, you will be provided with this drop down that basically has all the collections, and the version 3 assessment templates are in the TAFE New South Wales templates collection. So what is it, the third collection down from the drop down. So once I click on that link, that then takes me to the collection, and all the assessments, the blank Word documents are there. I'll click on one of the links just for an example. So I'll go to the assessment guides course unit link, and that will then, depending on whether it's going to play ball or not, yep. Okay, there's an error there. So I'll just go back one more time and have a look at another template. It may be, Tracy, sorry, have we taken these down? Maybe we have. Okay, so I might normally, and I'm not sure why the assessment template, so there may be a reason because of the release. But what would normally happen is I would be provided with a link that would have the bundle of assessment documents in there. So I'll leave that at this point now, because Tracy may have some comments on why the documents aren't there, and go to the data docs. So the difference is that the Word documents are indeed blank documents that you need to put in the unit number, the unit name, all the mapping information that, depending on the context of the assessment template. But you need to manually put these components into the Word documents, whereas the data web service works quite differently to that. I'll just go to data. So I'm just launching now into the data, and again we will share in this slide the URLs to all this information. But basically, when you go to data, you end up on this web interface. And I'll just look at a training package. So I'll just do an example. I'll just type in example. So I'll use a BSB one. So I'm just going to gather some. I'll gather version 2, and I want BSB. I'm just going to gather. So when I've typed in that information, there's a whole bunch of different configurations there, but basically it's that simple. You put in the training package, the qualification, and any units you might need, and then all the relevant information to that data entry will appear as data docs. I'll just open one of the documents to show you what's happened in the background. So I might just, for example, and so you'll see that on the left are the Word documents. There's also a link to the TGA link website for this particular qualification, and on the right are the associated support documents for the Word documents. I'll click on a UAG, for example, and show you what happens. So when I click on the link for the UAG, this will take a moment, but eventually Word will fire up there. What will happen is the document will now be opened in Word, and it will have all the relevant information from TGA in the appropriate places. So in other words, I don't have to copy and paste all of this information into this document. It's already done for me. Depending on the document, there will be obviously a variety of I'll just open the marketing guide, for example, a variety of information copied directly into the document from TGA. I'll just open that document as well. So I'm just opening a second document. So this one, for example, has again all the relevant information pre-populated in this document from TGA. As Lucia mentioned too, there are some examples within the document. Of course, you can replace these examples with your own assessment event types, but they're intended as examples to show you. Sorry, to give you a bit of a heads up. Once you've downloaded either from Aquella the Word documents or from Data the pre-populated documents, you'll need to then share them, and I'll probably let Tracy talk to this, but you'll need to then save them basically to your SharePoint, to your skills points SharePoint as per your standard operating procedure and processes, or in the case of institutes, to using your own method within your own whatever SharePoint or whatever site you may have. So you just need to treat the documents and save them as you would any assessment documents using the methods that you currently use. I might stop talking now and just see if anybody had any questions before moving on.
Dave, could you just open up one of the support documents so that people can just see what that looks like, if that's all right?
Sure. Yep.
And David, if you wouldn't mind, can you just, is it just pre-populated from training packages, or is there any pre-population from accredited courses?
Yeah,
So-
there's no pre-population from accredited courses.
Yep, it's the TGA data. So any TGA units. As a back note, Lucia will talk to continuous improvement. That has come onto our radar and is something that we're aware of, that the accredited courses are basically in the Learning Bank. And as a future forward body of work, we do intend to look at if we can use the same type of methodology with the Learning Bank accredited courses, but that's a future project.
And my understanding, sorry, it's Sarah, just quickly, is that there is going to be more transparency around the accredited courses on TGA, and they will be available there moving forward. I don't know when the time frame is.
Can't wait, Sarah. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful news. I've just opened that. So it is on our radar, and we do intend to follow up looking at the accredited courses. But the data docs currently are consuming the TGA data units from there. This is a support document that I've opened up. So each, as Lucia mentioned, each document has a support document, which really, just gives you some tips and hints on, the sort of just examples of the sort of information you would put within the document, within the data doc or the Learning Bank document. I might just open up another one and then, of course, answer any other questions that anybody had. If I can find my browser again. Yeah. I'll just open another document. So I'll open the skills assessment document. And then, of course, take any questions that anybody might have. So there's the skills assessment document, and again, it has relevant information around filling out the skills assessment template. Okay, I might switch back to this other screen now and see where we're up to. Oh yeah, so the last thing I want to mention about this is just be aware that the information is coming from TGA pre-populated into the assessment templates using data docs. There historically are some data errors within TGA, especially in some of the older units. So we ask, as a process, when you do download the data docs, just to click on the TGA link and just double check to make sure that the data has come across correctly. We've found the foundation skills in particular, sometimes there's some errors within the transfer of the data from TGA to the data docs. Not so much with the newer units, but some of the older units, some in fact didn't even have foundation skills, as you'd be aware. So there can be at times errors there. If you do find issues, either with the data docs, the application itself, so something's not working, and remember that thing about using Chrome or Safari, but if something's not working of a technical nature in the data doc system, or if you find some incorrectly transferred information from TGA into your Word document, there's a link here that you're able to register those types of matters. This leads to our ticketing system, and that information regarding either the incorrect transfer of unit information in the documents or some type of technical issue with the website itself, that will be logged within that ticketing system, and ICT will get around to addressing those issues. This is where I stop now, so I will allow an opportunity in case anybody had any other questions before I hand it over to Tracy, I believe. Okay, if there's no questions, and you've still got time if there are, I might hand it over.
There is just one, Dave, in the chat pod. Leslie's asked when they can gain access.
We will be sharing this slide pack with you guys after this session, and the links to everything we're talking about are within this slide pack.
But just to confirm, David, it won't be launching skills points at this skills team, at this point, or not?
I might just take that one, Sarah. what at the end we need to work out how are we going to deploy it to the skills teams. That's why we're sort of coming to the DIP teams, because obviously things like trying to implement this and do the deployment of it, and then I'm sure there needs to be some work around how do we actually have a shared voice around how you want and where you want the assessments saved. So I think it's a bigger conversation at this point, but I think we can have that at the end about how we're going to deploy it out to the skills teams.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Okay, I might hand over to Tracy.
Thanks, Dave. Do you mind if I share my screen? I think the search should work now. Great, thank you. Oh. Sorry, I'll just share my desktop. Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks everybody for allowing me the opportunity to come and speak with you a little bit about the Learning Bank. So as Joe mentioned at the beginning, my name's Tracy Collins and I'm the manager of the Learning Bank. So what my team is responsible for is making sure that the resources that are developed by Skills Points and TAFE Digital are made available to the teams in the regions to support the delivery. So hopefully you can see my screen. What I'd like to talk to you about really quickly is how your teams in the regions will be able to find resources and in particular assessment documents once they are released by the Skills Points, and also to be able to recognise those resources that are released by the Skills Points. But before I go into detail on that, I would like to just show you what Dave was referring to earlier, which is accessing those templates from the Learning Bank. So from the homepage, the dashboard, if you scroll down, and hopefully my scroll is working and not too delayed, you'll notice in the search portlet that we actually have a search for TAFE New South Wales templates option. So if you click on that search, it will actually take you directly to the TAFE New South Wales templates collection in the Learning Bank. And as Dave was showing you before, we've got the various different records there with the different types of assessment documentation. So if we open up one of those records, what you'll see is there's a message at the top in green to say that this is an approved resource, approved by Training Operations and Education and Training Group. And then what you'll also see in there is a package of files that you can access. So you can either click the link at the top of that record and download all of the files as a zip file, or you can just jump into an individual document by clicking on the individual links. You can also see that there is the date that that record was created and also the proposed review date. So you can see that you've got the most current version of those resources. So hopefully that is reasonably straightforward to be able to access those resources if you need to from the Learning Bank. So you can see there's quite a few different types of records in there. So once we've actually got the assessments completed by Skills Points, what you'll be able to do and what your skills teams staff members will be able to do is go and search the Learning Bank for the resources that they need. So you can see on the homepage, the dashboard of the Learning Bank, you've got the option to search by Skills Points. And so once the records are actually in the Learning Bank, you will be able to click on whichever one of those Skills Points you're looking for. And then once you click on that, you'll see a list of resources available, but you'll also be able to search in the top search bar by unit or by course, or by any other keyword, but we're expecting predominantly your team members would be searching by unit code or course code. So resources will be catalogued within the Learning Bank based on their unit, or if it's a cluster, multiple units. And also by course. So you'll be able to find at a unit level both teaching and learning resources and assessment resources. And at a course level, you'll be able to find course documentation like RPL kits, course assessment guides, that sort of thing. So either of those will be possible by just clicking in that search button and conducting a search for the unit or course that you're looking for. Just to show you some examples, sorry for jumping around. As you could see in the previous view, we don't actually have any finalised resources available yet in the Learning Bank from the Skills Points. But what I can show you is just a bit of a mock-up of what the search will look like and also what the records will look like. So once you complete a search in the Learning Bank, you'll see a view that looks similar to what's on the screen now. So you'll be able to see obviously the name of the record, but probably more importantly, you'll be able to see which units or unit that particular record is relevant for. Also the skills point that it relates to, and again, all skills points that have approved those resources for use, as well as the delivery mode and cohorts that those resources will be useful for. And I suppose in particular, whether it's a blended or a face-to-face or a purely online mode of delivery. Once you click on those records, I'll just quickly show you the assessment record. Again, you'll see at the top there that it shows you in green that those resources are actually approved by Skills Points. So all of the resources that were previously prepared by the region, so the RTOs, will still be available in the Learning Bank. So to try and minimise any confusion, we've actually got that green text at the top if it's a Skills Point approved resource. And you'll notice, excuse me, if you search and find RTO resources, that they have a purple message there that indicates that it's not a resource that's released by the Skills Points. So hopefully that is quite an easy trigger to identify those resources that your staff are looking for. Excuse me. You'll also notice that the presentation of the records in the Learning Bank is slightly different to what it used to be in Aquila. So you've now got the information about the unit and also the qualifications, and there may be multiple qualifications listed, the delivery details and the cohort, and then you'll have access to the individual resource files for that particular unit, as well as down below, this is actually all of the teacher documentation. The terminology is being fixed on that at the moment. So that's where you'll be able to find things like marking guides, mapping documentation, and any other materials that is only required for teachers and not for students. Right down the bottom of the record, you'll also see the product details, so which skills point or skills points are responsible for that particular record, as well as contact details of the product manager and the dates that the resources were created and are due to be modified. So, as I said, hopefully we'll have some resources in there shortly, but at the moment you won't find anything if you are searching in there.
Tracy,
yep.
Sorry to interrupt again, it's Kate Jones.
Yep,
Always
Kate.
got questions, obviously. Just those resources, so if I was to download that assessment event, just that first one, which is a Word doc,
Yep.
Is it locked, or am I as a teacher able to go and change it to my heart's desire?
So so there's a couple of things on that, and I'm probably not the best person to answer this.
No, I'm
so
just wondering.
if anyone else wants to jump in, but they are Word documents because there are fields within those documents that do require the teacher to customise for their cohort. So at the moment, yes, they are open. Jo or Lucia, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Kate, but at the moment where the templates are, there still needs to be that local information, as Tracy's already alluded to, which is around the contextualisation. I'm not really sure how we actually take all that, in place to lock every single thing down. I think eventually what I see, I suppose, if we're looking for the future, is that this will all be locked down if it's actually put into a Moodle. And I suppose that's what we're sort of looking for going into the future. So this is like the interim state. I suppose, we can't change everything overnight, but, certainly we'd be looking at, the main components of the assessments shouldn't be changed. And we should be saying that very clearly, I would suggest.
Yeah, no, I'm all over that. I thought we need to just be clear what it is and be what our message is to teachers. And really, to be perfectly honest, why would you change it? Somebody else has done the work for you. So leave it and just put in your stuff you need to do. But yeah, we just got to yeah.
That's right. There's just a question there about from Michelle about will all assessment tools from Skills Points or skills teams be validated, quality assured? I think as far as the Skills Points are concerned, we have a very rigorous quality assurance process because obviously these assessments are being developed for the whole of TAFE New South Wales, so they are quality assured. I think I know some of the Skills Points are doing the pre-validation process with the skills teams, but from what I can see, I believe that the validation will be the skills team's responsibilities, unless somebody else wants to make a comment there.
So yeah, Joe and I agree. The quality assurance will come from the ETG group, and I believe there's also some community of practice set up, and then the validation, as opposed to the quality assurance, will sit with the skills team. So that's the validation on the judgment. So once the assessment tools have been used, so just a bit of a play on the words there might have been a bit confusing.
Yeah, it could also, Sarah, Michelle might be sort of asking for people, the skills teams that are developing, about pre-validation. Thanks, Michelle.
Quality assurance, yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose the other question, though, to sort of be considered is, I'm sure each region is also taking on that responsibility as far as any assessments that are developed outside of Project 83 or all the production cycles. So that's probably a process that will be conducted by the regions. Am I right in saying that, Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Michelle, if I could just, the pre-validation is actually conducted with the communities of practice. If that's okay, the pre-validation. Okay, perfect. Okay, Tracy, we'll go back to you.
Great, thank you. I suppose the only other thing that I did want to mention is that your teams are probably going to be critical in the implementation of the Learning Bank. So what I'd like to offer, I suppose, is if there's any sub-teams or the whole team again who would like to find out more information about the Learning Bank as we move forward, then my team would be absolutely happy to come along to some of your meetings and informally just to discuss how we can work together to make sure that we can implement the Learning Bank effectively in the regions. So thanks for your time.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Tracy, particularly when we get resources in there and then, it becomes a bit more real. Like at the moment, we're still sort of showing it what it looks like the architecture and everything like that. But I think, once we start to get resources released into there, I think that will make it really important. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question, Joe?
Of course.
Margaret Millard speaking. I'm just wondering, you said that at the top of the documents it'll state whether it's been endorsed by your group. Do you have to actually open the document to be able to see that, or will it be when you search, can you identify which has been approved?
Sorry, so it's on the record display rather than the documents themselves. So once you click on the record display within the Learning Bank, it's right at the top of the screen. So you don't open the files themselves to see that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, good question.
Yeah, and I suppose it also highlights the challenge that we're going to have as far as, hopefully, as Kate's alluded to, people will embrace it and use it and see the true value of having assessments developed for them. But it's about that, I suppose, people or teachers really feeling, that they need to sort of value add to it and how they can do that. But, it's going to be that monitoring and support of it for sure. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions for Tracy?
It's Kate. I was just wondering if there was any plan at all, as especially assessments for new units. So as they go up, the approved ones, is there any thought of cleaning up Aquila in the background to take off assessment documents that are locally for those particular units, not for other units, but for those particular ones, so that doesn't get too many. If I did a search, not go to Learning Bank, but just did a general search, is there any thought of
absolutely?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Kate. As you can imagine, that is going to be a little bit tricky because there will be a teach out period potentially for some courses that are already underway.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of us being really careful about not impacting negatively on existing students and teaching practice. But yes, absolutely. Over time, the intention is that all of the resources that we need will be in the Learning Bank collection, and we will gradually archive and then remove the resources that have been used in the past. So that's another big piece of work, but we're absolutely going to be doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So, Lucia, are you taking on this part, the file naming conventions?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with the development of the version 3 templates, we also went back and had a look at the training product naming convention, and we've also updated that. So now we have a file, file and naming convention that is updated to take into consideration the end-to-end process of the development. So in that, that is currently sitting in the learning bank, and you'll see here from the screen. And if you go right to the end, the help for staff, thanks, Dave, this is the document. So in the document, we've covered everything from the TAS and how that needs to be filed and the naming of that. All the assessment templates that they currently have already got the naming in the footer. So it's just a matter of updating it. It has all the different acronyms and filing names for whatever document that you're using, whether it be a learning resource or an assessment resource. As I mentioned, the TAS. There is information on how to what to put in the footers. There's some information there on version control. So you see there with your templates, we've added to them. So it's just a matter of seeing what document you're looking for, the abbreviation, and then the filing convention that works. So that's been a consistent process that we've adopted, so that when you're working on your assessments or documents, if you start using the right filing names from the beginning, then hope that will carry through, and then you've got that consistent approach. So as what's on the screen there, the TAS. So it is sitting in the learning bank, highlighted there in yellow in the help for staff. So at the very bottom of that page is where you'll find that.
Can I just, sorry, Lucia, when we download the templates and they've got the naming convention, but a section in North, in Kingscliff, is going to use it, but put in their data for their students, their bits and pieces, and maybe they've got an SOL class, but down in Newcastle, they're doing it with SPATS or something. So have we got the how to then add those extra bits to differentiate the different types when we're putting into our SharePoints, for instance?
So in the when you're actually working on your document and it's being put into your SharePoint, then you know, where we sort of said if you try and use the same naming convention, I suppose that puts you to good practice in using the same along the way. We've tried to think of every option, but I suppose that what is really critical is that the naming convention that is used here is what's adopted once that document is complete and is not in draft form and it's ready to go into the learning bank. That way it'll be an easy search for everybody to have a look. So probably going back to your question, in your own SharePoint, then you know, you can probably look at file. If there's anything on that document that is missing, please let us know, and we can see, you know, if that's something that is needed, we can definitely incorporate that in there. But at the moment, I don't think that's in there. But as for your own, as you're developing your document, you're putting it into your own SharePoint, then that's a little bit different. It's just when that has then become the final version and it's moving into, the learning bank.
Yeah, thanks. That's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
So moving on to continuous improvement, as I mentioned, in developing the version 3 templates, we looked at each of the assessment designers were allocated to 3 different skill points. So we've been working with the skill points over the last couple of months in, you know, reviewing their assessments, having a chat with them, seeing what was working and what wasn't working and where we could assist. So in the development of the version 3 templates, we took some of that information and put that into the templates that we had. Once we were developing the templates, you know, things, I suppose that's where the support document evolved, because we found that there was a lot of information that was sought on how to do things and what should be here and all that type of information. So the support document came from that. The improvements from the feedback that was gathered. So once we developed the version 3 templates, we sent it out. We had an assessment workshop. We sent it out to people that were nominated from the skill points. And I know that some of the people on this group at the moment who are also involved in providing feedback and reviewing the templates. So we received that information, and what we did is that we implemented the things or the must-haves that would make sense to have now. And some of the common themes that we found were things like version control, document filing, hence why the original slide with the training product naming convention was finalised. Additional instructions and how to assist the trainer in developing their assessments, and the support document and all the instructions that are within the templates that has been incorporated. Also things to do with changing words for to better address compliance and prompt. So that feedback was incorporated in the version 3 templates that you see today. Further feedback was also provided, and it was things like nice to have, maybe more technology needed, and they're the things that we'll have a look at further down the track. So at the moment we're putting the tools out to be tested. We'll be reviewing and monitoring that cycle once the tool has been tested over the next 6 to 12 months. There is still an opportunity for you to provide feedback as you're using the tools, and the email address is there where we will collate that information and review, and then the next 6 to 12 months is where we will have a look at what has happened with the templates, other things that we can definitely improve further down the track, and it could be things like more data, as Joe mentioned, looking at an LMS system, and they're the things that we will be sort of working towards in the next 6 to 12 months. That's all from me. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Looks like we asked all our questions along the way.
It seems like it. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Well, I might just ask a few questions of you then, if that's okay. Just turn this around a little bit. Obviously, what we're trying to do, as we've said, is have these information sessions for each of the DIP teams. And I suppose it's like, what are the next steps? What are we going to do next with this? So as I said, with that time frame, we'll be rolling this out to each of the DIP teams. I will then, I meet regularly with the heads of the DIP teams just to work out what is going to be the strategy to actually roll this out to the skills teams, because I mean at the moment what we're looking at is eventually, I hope, in the end state, if we really think about that, all assessments will be available for people to be used in the learning bank, but there's going to be a period of time where teaching sections will have to develop their own assessments, which is why the templates are actually available. So I suppose that's one, if anybody's got any suggestions on rolling that out to the regions, like what we were sort of anticipating is that we would roll this out to the DIP teams who would then roll it out to the skills teams, but we're happy to assist with that. And I suppose the only other part around this is how, people that are actually, I suppose for your consideration, for people that teaching sections that do use the new assessments that are actually deployed from the skills points, there will be some sort of, I suppose, need for EBS to be updated, because the assessments, as Kate's already alluded to, the offerings are already being done now. So if people do take on that piece and want to use the assessments, there may be some small adjustments that will need to be made into EBS. And then I suppose, finally, I'll answer that question in a second. If you've got any suggestions on how we can actually improve this session, did we cover what you needed? Was it what you expected? That will really help us for the next sessions. So if anybody wants to respond to any of those, and I'll just have a quick read of Belinda's question.
Hi Joanne, it's Andrea Aloise. I know that Kate, Sarah and I are meeting with Margaret for a bit of a planning session this week, so we will put that on the agenda about how we might roll this out, what tactics we'll use and what different channels we'll use to get it out to the delivery teams.
That's great, Andrea. That's what we're hoping, and we'd be very happy to support you if you need any assistance.
Thanks.
It's Kate again, and I'm waiting to see if anyone else wants to jump in, but I was thinking either in this session or in a separate session, I think it would be really useful to have only one perhaps person, but to take us actually through the templates, to have a real look at the templates so that there's no question about what information goes in what section. And I think, I'm hoping that's pretty clear, but we know that we always get questions from head teachers around particular session, what goes here or where. So I'm just wondering, are we able to see the templates first and then come back to you if we think we need a session on the actual templates, not the process around it, but, let's look at template for this and what's the information,
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Kate, and we'll certainly have the communication out there when they're available. So maybe that's what we need to do, to consider another session that really has the deep dive into the actual assessment tools.
Yeah, I think that's where when we're helping a section actually use the tool themselves, sometimes we want to be really clear to say, no, that's the piece of information that goes in there is whatever, and maybe what you used to put in section A in your old template is now in section B. I don't know, but I'm just sort of so that we really have that clear understanding. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's very easy, but it's often we do get those types of questions.
I might also add to that, Catherine, is that the templates in version 3 there's quite a lot of instruction. So as I said, the support document actually is quite specific in what you should put. The actual student templates as well, within each area, there is great italics of what you suggested, responses that you should put in there. The student-facing documents, the language is speaking to the student. The trainer-facing documents, the language is speaking to the trainer. So I suppose, if you haven't seen the templates, is once you have had a look at the templates, you see that there is a lot of instructions around it, and it would be quite easier to use. But absolutely, as Joe mentioned later, we can definitely provide additional sessions on actual templates.
It's Perry Sirivika here. Just in terms of the rollout across the state and keeping the comms consistent, one of the things that's been really good when we've been rolling out statewide processes and procedures is either Adobe Connect sessions or something along those lines, where there is a very consistent recording of how to access things and where links are, etc., etc. So perhaps Andrea and Kate and Sarah, that could be considered as part of our plan of attack to ensure that our comms is consistent statewide and within the region.
Yeah, Perry, it's a really good point. Communication is key, absolutely. When you start talking about all of these different templates, do I even mention the TAS, with that communication? So it's, it's key, and we're certainly very strong advocates around having that clear communication so that we're all got the same message. So Deborah or Holly, did you?
Yeah, actually it's Deb here. When I've been involved in statewide rollouts before, one of the things I found really helpful was if there was a centralised bank where people could type in questions and answers would be generated that they could go back to. And so that if you had people approach you to say, I don't understand this aspect, or you knew there was somewhere they could either post a question or you could post it for them, and where they could see, the history of answers provided to, for those general things. So is there a possibility of something like that, or it might already be in place that people could use?
Yeah, there's a standards and compliance workplace, but we're just trying to work out, because this is now shifted into training operations and not with standards and compliance. Teachers are used to going to that site. That's where they're asking questions, and I don't know if you're actually members of that site. I'm sure you are. People ask, what's happening, with the templates, because obviously people know that templates are being developed. So we'll certainly take that on board. I agree. I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, we'll have a think about how we actually manage that. We sort of manage that with skills points at the moment, but maybe with your help we can actually do that as a statewide, you know, can we do it as a collective rather than somebody having responsibility for it? So we'll take that one on board. I just realised that we're 10:31. Can I just go, there's a couple of SharePoints there. Will the templates on local SharePoints be taken away? That's probably, I would say that is the case, actually. I would say that's yes, the answer, because the templates will be the new ones. We'll send out the recording to you. So thanks, Steph, for that question. I just want to go back to Belinda's question about is there any tools for timetables or delivery schedules? At this point, the answer is no, Belinda, at this point, but we'll take that question on notice. It might be something that we develop all together. So I might just leave it there because we all have to go because it's 10:31. Can I just thank everybody for coming along and thank my team for the work that they've done in presenting today. And if you have any feedback outside of this, please let us know. So thank